So Matt has checked out Mother. I needed someone just to confirm what I already knew, a waste of time, a waste of creativity. So Matt, what were your thoughts on Mother?
Felt that this movie was this combobulated, symbolic piece of shit movie.
God damn, Matt.
What?
You my boy. Continue.
Okay. Clearly, the director had no idea what genre or audience that he wanted to convey his message to. Of course, who's watching the movie? The audience. Normally with movies, you have a good versus evil, a certain situation, agenda, etc. Watching the movie, you had no idea. Normally in a movie, you have a misunderstanding. Not in this movie. It's not even close. So, for example, I can't get names correct for Jack Squat, but the guy.
You know, they never said names. They never said anyone's names.
Javier, like the decisions that he made in the movie isn't anywhere close to what it would be in real life. I don't know anyone in their right mind who'd be like, oh, come in my house. I don't know who you are. You say you're a surgeon, which I'm like, yeah, all right. Let me just have you come in my house and stay with me and my wife in this big house.
Yeah, I don't know who you are. You could be a rapist.
And then his wife comes in and, oh, you can stay too. I mean, the decisions that were made in the movies, in most movies, you can see a point A, point B, different points of view, but it's not even plausible as far as decisions that Javier would actually make. Like, who does that? I have no idea. Other things that I found wrong with this movie, there was a lot. Normally with symbolic and artsy-fartsy movies, you're prepped for it. Hey, you know, this is what it's about. In this movie, it's not like that. And from my understanding, doing my research after I watched the movie, I guess this movie was about God, Mother Earth, humanity. In this movie, there was no clue in the actual movie to look at it after the fact. I find it disappointing because if they prepped the movie a little bit more, maybe it would probably have a little bit more positive review, possibly. And then that last 20, 25 minutes of the movie was horrendous. It went from this house to looters to a club scene to what looked like a Nazi scene to police protesters, World War II scenes, cannibalist scenes.
Mosh pit. Don't forget the mosh pit, Matt.
The mosh pit, paparazzis. Oh, wow. This is just...
You know what? It was as chaotic as The Purge. Because
this was a lot more... Because it was in a small, confined environment.
It was just in a house.
So the only thing that was missing in this movie was Godzillas, ninjas, and zombies. I mean, outside of that, it had all the genres covered for that last 20 to 30 minutes. And I'm just sitting there like...
I'm surprised the tank didn't pull up and shit.
Yeah, symbolism to me is wonderful when you don't have to Google it. Kind of like one of those...
Like, I got you.
I got it. Understand. But it's not like that. If this was a movie, like a sequel, maybe you could get it. But as a standalone franchise, being the first of its kind, it flopped terribly.
You know what's a good example of a movie that has great symbolism and did well and people liked it? The first Matrix.
Yeah, it did.
If it was something like that, I'd be like, okay, I see. But when I was watching this movie, I'm a lot calmer now compared to what I was when I first saw this movie. When I first saw this movie, I already figured out this is an artsy-fartsy film. I figured out that's all about emotion.
But no one knew. No one knew it was an artsy-fartsy film. Yeah. The general public did not. Now, the moviegoers who know the director, fine, but there was no clue. The trailers were misleading. For example, the marketing team, all of them need to be fired for false advertisement in this movie.
That's true, too, because in the original podcast, the first podcast, we were thinking like it was going to be Rosemary's Baby. It was going to be like a haunted house or something like this. Or I thought it was going to be something like The Shining. It reminded me of so many other movies because it had like little bits and pieces of those movies that make you think it could go in that direction. But it went a totally opposite direction. And normally I would be fine with that. But it has to make sense. The only thing I gathered was that this movie was about emotion and about sacrifice, and Javier Bardem was a fucking demon or something, and he's thrived on that shit. I think I said that he must be a demon because when the house blew up, he was chilling. Matt said it was utter shit. I mean, I said that before. I'm glad Matt agrees with me. He may not be as harsh as I am with the score, but your description of it was perfectly put because it was just a mishmash of everything. It didn't make sense. To me, Darren Aronofsky, he's a pretty good director when it comes to mindfucks, like I mentioned before.
I think probably it was because of the preparation of the movie. I think the trailers on Black Swan properly reflected exactly what it is. Because with this movie, you know, people are like, oh, you can't define the movie. Yeah, you can. It might not be all in one category, but it might be a combination of. they misled the general public. That's how come when people were watching it, it was
That was
like,
on purpose, man.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. And that's what, in my opinion, what also led to the downfall. Because if you knew for a fact that this was an artsy fartsy movie prior to watching this movie, you would have a greater expectation. Like, hey, this is what I was looking at. And maybe instead of me taking it for, hold on, this doesn't make any damn sense, you might be able to take a look at it symbolically.
Yeah, that's true. But you know what? It was an artsy fartsy film. Black Swan. It was an artsy fartsy film. I believe it was.
Yeah, but you knew it before coming into
it
the
had a
movie
lot of
theater.
symbolism, but it made sense. Like I said, this could happen if she was drunk. Maybe she did bang Mila Kunis. Maybe her going crazy about being the Black Swan in this play is making her go a little bit insane. Maybe she's taking too much on. Like, it's a possibility this could happen. They advertised it well. This one came off as a psychological thriller. I knew who directed it, and I was like, okay, it's going to be a mind fuck of a film. Let's see what it's about. For the people that are listening that are into art films, I am not shitting on that genre. I like art films, but I just think people need to do them better, especially this guy. But anyway, so that little disclaimer there. I believe art films have to make sense. It's just always a deeper meaning behind what you see on the surface.
Yeah, there was no explanation of why things were happening in the film. Normally, movies are supposed to take you to a certain place, but this random shit happening.
Just out of the blue. Didn't make any sense, but it's just happening. And I still want to know what the hell was that tonic that every time she was having like little cramps, there was always a time in the movie before she got pregnant, she was having cramps. And she would go into her bathroom and just take a shot of some yellow liquid. It looked like Minute Maid. You put it in the water and shit. That's what it looked like. And she would drink it and then she'd be fine.
It was Tang.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Tang. That's basically what it looked like. Tang. Yeah, it was Tang. It kind of glowed a little bit when she put it in the water. But the funny thing about that, when she was having her little cramps, she starts seeing the house in a burnt, deteriorative state. And that's because the shit happened again. Maybe that suppressed the memories of the past woman that went through the same shit. Because this was nothing but Groundhog Day. All this shit was happening again. After Jennifer Lawrence basically set the house on fire, and he took her heart, and it was the crystal that was broken by the strangers that came into the house. Well, not strangers, it was strangers that were invited into the house. It all happened again, but just with another woman at the end. That's all it was. So I'm thinking that tonic that she was drinking was kind of like to suppress the past images. I don't know. I already come to the conclusion that somehow, some way, Javier Bardem is some type of demon, a succubus, and just lives off emotion. All the things that was happening in the movie were varying forms of emotion. Like, for example, the cult scene, that's dedication and sometimes fanaticism. Her having a child, love, her sacrificing everything for him, sacrifice. The party scene, happiness.
I'm going to give you my interpretation when you're done.
Those things brought out some type of emotion, and he fed upon it. That's why he kept inviting people here. I like inviting people to the house because it brings life into the house. I remember him saying that, and he thrived off of it. Like Matt said, in real life, if this story was to follow real life, which it did not, no man would be like, yes, stay in my house, stranger. I don't know who you are, and yes, please involve your wife as well. Yes, let's do this. So something was already off with him to begin with. But everything that happened in this movie was a conveyance of emotion. And like I said, he's the only one that survived that whole ordeal when the house burnt down. So he feeds off of it. That's why he wanted Jennifer Lawrence's heart. And it became a crystal and all this other stuff. And then I mentioned before that first crystal, he said, I lost everything in the fire, and it's the only thing that survived. It's the most cherished thing for me and all this other shit. So basically, it's going to happen all over again.
So you're feeling it's more about emotion?
I think so. I mean, that's the only thing I could really see to even try to make sense of it. But still, they could have gave that message a different way, and it still would have been a way better movie.
From what I've read, and was that Javier was God? Harris and Pfeiffer, the stranger and his wife, are Adam and Eve, and their kids were Cain and Abel, with the former killing the latter due to his sin. The magic crystal is a forbidden fruit. The burst sinks in the house was God's way of punishing everyone with the flood.
Oh my God. You're making sense, but wow.
I mean, I found out about this after, because I had to look it up. I'm like, what the hell?
Oh, so someone interpreted this movie.
Yeah. Well, I found out after the fact, like when I read it, because I really want to understand, what was the hoopla? And then as far as Jennifer Lawrence's character, being pregnant, kind of like a Christ body who is eaten by Javier's followers, are us. We're the humans. And the house, which was being destroyed by everyone, is Mother Earth. Jennifer Lawrence's character dying and then being reborn as someone else. It's the cycle that happens over and over and over again, that the house was being ravaged over and over again, just like we're just ravaging this earth for all the resources that it has. And it's been happening generation after generation after generation in different manners, hence the different war zones that you saw, you know.
But you know what, though?
The police, the SWAT team. I don't think we mentioned the SWAT team.
No,
the World War II scene, the mosh scene, the protester scene.
You know what, though? The explanation makes sense, but the execution was shitty.
Oh, yeah. The execution was terrible. For me, I would have rather more looked forward to the film if I knew exactly what I was getting into.
Now that you mention that, the titles of the people, their names and all that stuff, I'm looking at IMDb right now. Jennifer Lawrence, mother. Javier Bardem, him. Ed Harris, man. Michelle Pfeiffer, woman. Brian Gleason and Domhnall Gleeson, younger and older brother. All this shit makes sense from what you're explaining. So it's
I had to look it up afterward. I mean, I don't claim
it's biblical, but you know what? You could have done that a lot better than
what was portrayed.
Yeah, what it was portrayed just was like, what the hell? And they would just had it just mother and not have pushed it as a psychological thriller / horror and all this shit. It probably would have done better. And for the explanation, it still gets a -10 because execution was still piss poor. I like whoever explained it, and if this is legit, it would make sense. But I would have did it totally different. And it also made more sense because he was a poet, and everybody was just like clamoring over his book, hence the Bible. So it makes perfect sense. But the way his execution was killed this movie. Matter of fact, like I said, prime example, The Matrix. Matrix had to do something with God and religion and all that, but you got the meaning of it.
Yeah, it was executed a lot better.
Good one, Matt. That was good. That was good.
I don't claim any of it. I had to look it up.
I mean,
what the hell did I watch?
I know, but like when I interpret it, was just off of me watching it. So yours actually makes more sense. Still a bad movie.
I think the greatest part of the movie that I liked is when it ended. So.
Ooh. So before you had to basically research the movie, what would your score have been?
It still would have been a 2.
Still been a 2? Okay, I thought maybe that your score increased after you got the possible meaning of this bullshit.
No, because I mean the plot, as far as like, hey, you know, the house in the middle of nowhere kind of gives it the little mystique. Like, oh, okay, cool.
That's why I thought about The Shining. I was like, it's like so many different things.
Yeah, there were so many different directions it could have went and been like, oh, okay, that seems pretty awesome, and it's gonna go somewhere. Wrong, not this time.
Yeah, like I said, it's still a shitty score, and I still keep my -10. My time is precious, man. Okay? My time is precious. I lost 2 hours and a minute of my life. Every hour counts. Shit, man. Every hour counts. And I won't get that shit back. That's a wrap for the Beast Game Podcast.